Hey, what's going on? This is the Body Punch Podcast, and my name is Naz. Welcome to the UFC 270 post-fight show. Welcome to the UFC 270 post-fight show. What an exciting fight. Always amazing to have a heavyweight bout, and especially with two specimens like Francis Ngannou and Ciryl Gane. This fight, in many people's opinion, went a lot differently than they thought. Francis Ngannou engages with Ciryl Gane and takes him down numerous times. And instead of going for that knockout punch, which he tried a couple times actually, he used his wrestling, his advanced wrestling from what we saw earlier in his career. And even a couple fights ago, in the Stipe Miocic fight, Francis Ngannou looked so different. So aggressive with his wrestling. And coming into this fight, injured, saying that one of his ACLs was blown out, and having numerous injuries to his knee and leg. Coming into the fight with those two knee wraps on, which is very unusual. Francis Ngannou has never worn those knee wraps before, saying in the post-fight press conference that he's gonna need surgery, that it's an eventuality. That's how busted up his legs were. And he was also mentioning the fact that because his legs, and I'm saying legs, and it could be just one, because they were injured like that, he wasn't able to knock out Ciryl Gane the way that he wanted, the way that he predicted in numerous interviews. He talked about it a bunch of times that he wanted to knock out Ciryl Gane. He said that he will predict that it would have been done in the first or second round. He really went for it, but it seemed like Ciryl Gane's elusive maneuvering in the octagon really helped him out and not getting knocked out. But then when Francis Ngannou started taking him down and started almost just throwing him to the ground, muscling a lot of those takedowns, using some great techniques on a double leg in one of the rounds, and showing another layer of his game at the age of 35. The way that this guy is able to advance his skill set is just incredible. Coming into the sport as a striker, mentioning in the post-fight interview that this is something that he's been working on throughout his career. At the beginning stages, it was a lot of takedown defense. Now he is being the aggressor. When you nullify his powerful nuclear bomb that he throws, he's now able to put in that extra layer, which is the wrestling. Now, a lot of people were talking about how he didn't do much when he took Ciryl Gane to the ground, meaning that he didn't throw a lot of ground and pound strikes to Ciryl Gane. But that can easily be explained by just saying to yourself that if you threw all of those strikes, first of all, it would fatigue him. Second, this is something that he didn't want to do because he didn't want to let Ciryl get back to his feet. We saw a couple times Ciryl Gane just just quickly went to the cage, started to climb the cage with his back, which helped him get up a couple of times. But the power and technique that Francis Ngannou has shown in this fight has just elevated his status in the heavyweight division. John Jones coming out and saying that just by watching this fight, it gives him a lot of confidence, which I think it should, because it wasn't anything that we haven't seen John Jones deal with in the past. But then you add in the first couple of rounds, we know for sure that Francis Ngannou possesses the power to knock out anybody. And for Ciryl Gane, A lot of people with his 10-fight winning streak thought that he was the next generation, the V2 of the heavyweight division. Light on his feet, you throwing a bunch of spinning attacks, elbows, having that in and out movement, just like Wonder Boy at some points, but at 240 pounds, maybe 270 when he got into the ring, to the octagon. But Francis Ngannou didn't just play to what he thought would take him out, meaning that he knows he can knock anybody out. That's the thing that you get with power and the knockout capability that he has. You know that you can knock anybody out, and to not force it and to listen to his coaches, who Eric Nixick and his other coaches, the type of instructions that they were throwing at him were just perfect. The way that they were able to pitch it back and forth between themselves was amazing. The way that they were able to control Francis and tell him exactly what he needed to know was amazing. Dewey Cooper was saying a bunch of times to throw uppercuts when Ciryl was coming in. He did it a couple times, and it was just a perfect coaching execution by the team at Extreme Couture. So let's talk about what's happening next. Francis Ngannou was in disputes with the UFC, talking about his contract and what will happen next. Obviously, there will be a contract extension. That's part of the UFC's deal. Whenever they have a heavyweight, they can't let him leave. Or whenever they have someone who has the belt, they can't just let him leave and join another organization. So that fight contract will be extended. So Francis Ngannou will have to stay with the UFC. It doesn't seem like when he was talking about it in the post-fight press conference, it doesn't seem like he wants more money. It seems like he wants the flexibility and the respect. The respect part, I don't really understand. I don't know what more he wants. Maybe he wants more push from the UFC, but that's up to him. I think it comes to the flexibility. Maybe he wants to box. Very interestingly, Joe Rogan mentioned the boxing aspirations that Francis Ngannou has to fight the likes of Tyson Fury. I think that the Tyson Fury fight is a little bit out there, but I think a Deontay Wilder fight, power versus power, to see who the most powerful man is in the heavyweight division, and AKA that means in the world, that'd be a fun fight. But I think Francis wants the flexibility and the backing from the UFC to do this kind of stuff. Another interesting point a lot of people have concerns with and have been talking about is Dana White not giving the belt to Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou, I guess, didn't notice it in the moment because obviously the belt is coming from behind. And a lot of people are making a big deal out of this. We don't know the full story. We don't know. Dana White has to deal with so much stuff when it comes to the UFC. He talks to celebrities. He interacts with a lot of people at these events. Dana White's main job at the UFC live, especially during a pay-per-view, is being the face of the UFC, meaning that he's got to meet the top tier people that are going to these events. Maybe something happened. Dana White has a lot of things behind the scenes that he has to deal with. I just name a couple times that Dana White has talked about this, where he has to deal with some sort of situation and we don't even see it during the fight. We don't even hear a mention of it on the broadcast. And then later on, we get an explanation of what happened. Like even fighters getting into fights in the crowd, unruly fans, stuff that you have to deal with all the time. So, and hey, it might have been personal, but a lot of people are making this into Francis Ngannou having issues with the UFC. And that's why Dana White did this to him. Didn't even show up to the post-fight press conference. Who knows? This is a big, massive situation. for Francis Ngannou in the UFC. You have the perfect heavyweight, meaning the look, the attitude that Francis Ngannou has now, and to defeat, I know he doesn't like to talk about this, but his toughest opponent to date. The matchup was super not in his favor, but that's what we thought. And then adding that extra layer of wrestling. And I remember this one point where I was like, oh my God, Francis Ngannou is confident wrestling, was when he was on his back. Ciryl Gane was on top of him. And Francis was not okay with being on his back, a la the Stipe Miocic fight one, where he just accepted being on his back. Francis got up. He got up whenever he needed to. And that makes a scary fighter the scariest heavyweight ever. Let's see what happens next. Maybe he'll box. Maybe he'll fight John Jones, who mentioned him a couple times on Twitter. But Francis Ngannou showing this extra layer, especially with the injured legs that he had. And who knows what happens after surgery. But Francis Ngannou is a superstar. And it's amazing to have a heavyweight champion like Francis Ngannou with the backstory he has and everything. Great fight. Great night of fights. A lot of people were ragging on this card, saying that it wasn't that deep. But I mean, the fighters that were on this card put on a show. It was great. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube. If you can like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, that'd be amazing. You can listen to the podcast on the different podcast networks, hit 5 stars on there, leave a comment, send an email, all that good stuff. Let's get in contact. Let's talk about this and what you think Francis Ngannou is going to do next. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to me talk about these fights. It was amazing. This has been the Body Punch Podcast. My name is Naz. Bye.